Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those of you who join us today from Brazil. As we know, in December 2023, the lower and the upper houses of the Brazilian Congress approved the long-awaited tax reform in Brazil via constitutional amendment. And indeed, the Brazilian Chamber, via its tax committee, has held a very informative webinar on this. According to the reform, the federal government will be able to charge a selective tax called Imposto Seletivo in Portuguese on the production, extraction, sale, and import of goods and services which are deemed to be harmful to health or to the environment. I understand that the oil and gas and mining industries in Brazil have raised concerns on the tax. And today, the lower house in Brazil begins discussions and voting the tax reform, including the selective tax. So we are very lucky to have with us today specialists that will explain and discuss this team with us. I would like to thank the Tax Committee of the Brazilian Chamber, especially its chairman, Gustavo Braga, founding partner of BBSA, Braga Bastos Sociedade de Advogados, for the committee's initiatives and efforts in bringing to us today a first-class panelist to guide us through the middles of this complex team. My big thanks also go to our speakers, Matias, Lopes, and Rinaldo, César, Mancin. So to all of you, many thanks for being with us today. And finally, as I always do before I ask Gustavo to open our works, I would like to remind you of a few housekeeping rules. There will be a Q&A session today, and questions can be asked via the Teams chat box. So please feel free to type and send your questions to our speakers during the whole webinar. And also, please note that this webinar is being recorded and that the recording of this session will be posted at the Chamber's website and social media platforms in the next few days. So with that said, thanks very much again, and over to you, Gustavo.
Thank you very much, Vera, for the kind introduction. Thanks everyone attending today. Thanks very much our panelists, Rinaldo, Matias. It's really a big privilege to be here and addressing this very important theme, a tax that was created as an outcome of the Brazilian tax reform, and especially in such a timely occasion wherein the votings take place at the lower chamber now, as we speak, almost, and it still has to go to the Senate and then back. So that is a perfect time to try and debate and perhaps even collaborate for the best outcome of this new tax being created in Brazil. So let me try and share my. I'll start again. So just as the outline, as the program says, I'll first address the outlines, the legal framework of the Imposto Seletivo, and then we'll have Matias Lopes bringing the views from the oil and gas sector. Matias Lopes is the representative, the head of the tax matters in IBP, Instituto Brasileiro de Petroleum, and also have Rinaldo Mancin speaking from the perspective of the mining industry, as he is an officer of IBRAM, Instituto Brasileiro de Recursos Minerais. Okay, so sharing my screen. Hope it is going. There you go. Okay, so constitutional tax reform Brazil. Just a brief primer on this, so we can everyone be on the same page. It was implemented by Constitutional Amendment 132. Okay, so the big issue that was subject of this constitutional reform was the harmonization of the national rules on consumption taxes. As a result, ICMS, ISS, IPI, PIS/COFINS, hence taxes at the municipal, state, and federal level falling on consumption, merged into CBS, IBS, known as the dual VAT. So the idea was to create a national VAT. Of course, there are so many issues about this tax. There's an 8-year convergence transition period in which taxpayers will have to keep the compliance of both systems of consumption taxation. That's going to be a big challenge. Also, huge challenges and complex issues concerning the tax administration, how it's going to happen for the state, municipal, and federal authorities to deal with the litigation, with tax assessments, who will be, how will be this harmonized. But okay, we could spend like hours here discussing this, the creation of the dual VAT. Eventually, we might do that in a given occasion later, but let's focus back on the main aspects of the tax reform that was approved. So vehicle property tax was increased. Now it also falls on aircraft, boats, and ships. Changes enabling the increase of the inheritance donations tax that's owed to the states, and the real estate property tax that's owed to the municipalities. State contributions on primary and semi-processed goods. Let's not delve into this. And last but not least, certainly not least, which is the focus of the discussion today, the creation of this imposto seletivo to be imposed as from year 2027. Right. So let's try to understand a bit of the legislative evolution of the imposto seletivo. It was initially heralded and gained a lot of popularity, being known as the sin tax. So a tax to burden sins and vices. So perhaps gluttony via sugar-added drinks, ultra-processed foods, alcohol, tobacco. This is as old as the hills. This is in Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776. There are some lovely passages addressing this kind of the employment of taxes for that kind of outcome. So these sin taxes, they are essentially a tax with a regulatory purpose. The idea is to discourage some behavior from people, from consumers that is not desirable, not adequate. Ideally, for another conceptual item of a sin tax or a sumptuary excise, that is that the proceeds, the revenue is used to address those behaviors and their detrimental consequences. On that regard, unfortunately, in Brazil, because the imposto seletivo is imposto, that type of tax in Brazil cannot be bound on its revenue. So it just flows into the treasury without a specific destination to it. So one of the conceptual features of this of a sin tax cannot apply here. The constitutional amendment could have changed this to the imposto seletivo, but it didn't. And then, not long before the emenda complementar, the constitutional amendment was submitted to Congress, then there was some change, and then the selective tax sort of also becomes a carbon environmental tax. Let's see how the wording ended up in the Constitution accordingly. So an item 8 was included in Article 153. That's the article that concerns the taxing powers of the Union, the federal government, and including in item 8 the imposto seletivo. So let's pay attention to how it was worded. So it's a tax that falls on production, extraction, sale, or importation of goods and services. Okay, right. So it's a good and services tax. Falling on extraction, maybe not exactly the profile of a tax aiming at conditioning consumers' behavior. but not any goods and services, those that are harmful to health or the environment. And but which of those goods and services harmful to health or the environment should fall into the scope of the tax, and how will the tax operate? It's pursuant to supplementary law, lei complementar. This is a type of law in Brazil that requires a higher quorum in Congress to be approved. It requires an absolute majority, meaning that more than half of the existing congressmen must vote in favor of the proposition. So yeah, there's some legal stability attached to this kind of legislative implementation. But let's delve a bit more into each of these elements of the selective tax as created in the Constitution. Well, being the goods and services tax, it's a regressive tax, right? So it's going to burden relatively more the lower the net income of the taxpayer. If a millionaire paying 100% tax on a pack of cigarettes doesn't care about it, people with not so well off might be harmed in their available income, including for saving purposes, by the creation of such a regressive tax, right? Besides that, as mentioned, once the tax moves away from the sale to the consumer, such as in production and moreover in extraction of minerals in general and oil and gas, the less it meets its regulatory purpose. And okay, now about the other element, goods and services harmful to health or the environment. It's a very open concept, very open. So pursuant to the supplementary law, anything that is perceived as harmful to the health or the environment could fall into the scope of the tax. Chemicals, which is a really important raw material for so many industries, batteries, waste removal, agriculture, according to some. So, but what the supplementary law is addressing, and this is very important, as mentioned by Vera earlier, the Congress is voting today, starting to vote today, the bill proposed by the government to establish, to enact the Imposto Seletivo. This is Bill 68, and these are the goods that have been included in the scope of Imposto Seletivo. Alcohol, tobacco, and tobacco products, of course, sugar-added drinks, cars, planes, boats, minerals, and oil and gas. Ultra-processed foods was left out. Firearms and ammunitions were left out. I sort of doubt there's anything more harmful to one's health than a bullet entering your body, but that was the choice of the bill that's being submitted to Congress by the government. Okay. So what are the additional boundaries set in the Constitution about the Imposto Seletivo, the IS? And now let's go item by item and then commenting each item so we don't take too long. Does not levy exports or operation with electric energy and telecommunication. This is totally consistent with the Constitution, the national tax system, economic logic, the main logic being that a country should not export taxes. This only hurts the competitivity of the commodities being exported, all right? The Imposto Seletivo must levy the goods or service only once, all right? So apparently a single-phase taxation. A lot of flexibility to establish the taxpayer anywhere in the economic chain, but all right. It's not computed in its own tax base, great. So no gross up calculation, so no hidden burden when the rate of tax does not represent the ultimate tax to be collected. So the nominal rates will be real rates. And then, in my view, things started to derail. Must integrate the dual VAT tax base. So this tax is computed in the VAT tax base. So it's a cumulative tax. And all the discussions towards the enactment of the Constitution, the tax reform in the Constitution, they were really strong on let's have a national VAT, which uniform and harmonized and with one single set of rules. And the VAT is great because it's a non-cumulative tax. It doesn't burden the productive sector. Ultimately, it's supported the burden falls on the consumer. The ISS, the municipal tax that was cumulative, was extinct. So now we have cumulative tax in the imposto seletivo, and it's worth noting that not only cumulative for the VAT base, but also for itself, because let's on hypothesis, assuming that the bill as is approved, I think it should be changed. Actually, it should be changed. But okay, so oil is subject to the oil extracted subject to the imposto seletivo. So that's an input for the fabrication, for the production of tires. And those tires, when they are used to assembly of a car, an automobile, there is going to be imposto seletivo on the sale of that car as well. So on the cost of that car, on the sales price of the cars, that's the base of the imposto seletivo, there is imposto seletivo that was paid on the inputs. Same applies to the steel. The iron ore, subject to imposto seletivo, increases to its cost on steel produced with that ore, and the steel is being used on the manufacturing of cars, on the production of cars. Then you have, again, the imposto seletivo falling on imposto seletivo, and not only the imposto seletivo itself, but also that was included in the basis, the VAT basis of the ore, of the steel, of the oil, of the tires, so on and so forth. This is really detrimental. This item, sorry, I think it sort of opened the Pandora's box. According to the constitutional text, the imposto seletivo may have other tax triggering events and calculation base. This is institutionalizing double taxation on income, on revenue, on ownership of assets, on supplies, on royalties, on any other tax in Brazil. This is weird. Next item, imposto seletivo shall have its rate set forth by ordinary law. Okay, sort of an uncertainty there because ordinary law is easier to approve. You just requires ordinary majority, simple majority, meaning more than half of the congressmen present in a given session to approve such a bill. Also, this enables the enactment of increases in the rates via provisional measures to be subsequently homologated by Congress, but then some legal uncertainty resulting from this here. And then this is the item that seems to have created the most controversy and as suffering huge criticism from reputed doctrine in Brazil. It establishes that the imposto seletivo on extraction applies irrespective of the destination at a maximum rate of 1% of market value. So there are so many things to address here. First, let's not be fooled about the 1% tax rate. The effective burden is higher than that because, as we've seen, it's a cumulative tax. So the ultimate burden is far higher than this. The interpretation of the word destination here throughout the Constitution, in many situations, it should mean employment, the use, the utility destination of a given good or service. And however, if destination here is interpreted as geographical and it includes exportation, then you have that huge distortion on the tax system that we mentioned earlier. Market value. How to ascertain market value? What criteria will be used to ascertain market value, irrespective of the sales price? Especially talking about commodities which price float according to the market. Regressive corporate tax, we've seen it's a regressive tax, and that applies also to corporations. So imagine if a corporation has 100% profit margin on sales, it shouldn't care much about paying 1% tax on sales. But if a given extraction business has its profit margin of 10%, then 1% become 10% of their profit margin, and that's a lot. And another extraction business which profit margin is of 2% of sales, then this tax becomes half of the net income of that business. So this is ultimately this tax is more burdensome to businesses that operate in a more competitive environment, where as a rule the profit margins are very low or lower than average. And again, especially concerning commodities, which price flows according to market. So, and as an additional remark, this tax is to be paid solely to the federal government, right? However, and this applies, however, on especially for the mining oil and gas sectors, these sectors of the economy already pay financial compensation for the exploration of the reserves, right? So, and the royalties, the compensation for the mineral extraction, they fall on the net income of those businesses, of those companies. So once this tax of the imposto seletivo is charged, it becomes an additional cost that reduces the net income for purposes of participação especial, CEFEM, the financial compensation for mining. And the point is that the revenue of participação especial in CEFEM, it's shared among the federative units. A huge portion of those taxes actually are channeled to state governments and local municipal governments. And once that share of the revenue is reduced, their share of the revenue is reduced. So at the end of the day, this tax offends the federative principle by reducing the share of the other federative entities as a result of the overall governmental take on those businesses. Final remarks. Let's wrap up. I'm sort of running away from my time. So I'd like to call your attention to two other paragraphs included in the Constitution as a result of this constitutional amendment, as a result of the tax reform. In Article 145, that concerns the allocation of taxing powers among the federative units. It's the first article that establishes the principles of the national tax system. The first of them reads as follows. The national tax system must observe the principle of simplicity, transparency, tax justice, cooperation, and protection of the environment. Yes, but all these principles must be balanced and observed. Is it transparent? A sin tax that falls on extraction or production totally invisible to the consumer, which behavior was supposed to be impacted by its burden? Do we achieve tax justice by institutionalizing double taxation? Do we achieve tax justice by impacting the federative structure of the country by reducing the revenue from other taxes that would ultimately be shared with the other federative entities rather than the federal government, the union? Open questions. And the other paragraph I'd like to call your attention to is this. Now the Constitution sets forth that changes to tax legislation shall seek to mitigate regressive effects. There you go. It's possible to mitigate the regressive effects of the imposto seletivo as conceived so far, perhaps via credit, abating the value of the participação especial of the financial compensation paid by those extracting companies, or some other ways. But this is now what the Constitution sets forth as a result of the same tax reform that creates the imposto seletivo. So in my view, this should be applied at the same time. And so finally, in my opinion, these principles here should be enforced by Brazilian Congress when voting, when enacting the IS law, supplementary law, or by the judiciary branch afterwards. So that's what I had to share. Let me go back to the, so let me pass to Rinaldo Mancin from IBRAM, and then, first to Matias Lopes with EBP, and then Rinaldo. And let's hear from their views on their concern. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, that a tax conceived to discourage harmful behavior became a tax that can disincentive investment and generation of jobs in Brazil. Matias, can you please...
Thank you, Gustavo. It's good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to receive this invitation from the Brazilian Chamber of Commerce in Great Britain to speak about this new tax in Brazil, I will a presentation. It's not easy talk about this issue, this new tax after the speech of my friend Gustavo, but I will try cover some aspects related to the competitiveness of Brazil with this new tax in comparison with the other countries. To understand this new tax in Brazil and the rate of 1% can appear low, but when we put this new tax in all the taxation scenario for oil and gas is very complex for us. And to understand the whole scenario, it's important to understand the taxes and the financial compensation that Gustavo mentioned in his speech. Here, to understand the regimes in Brazil, we have concession, we have PSC, and we put the comparison of Brazil with Gulf of Mexico, Namibia, and Guyana, because these three countries and regions are our main competitors nowadays. No? And when we put the barrel with $80 the value, Brazil in the concession is competitive if you compare with Namibia and Guyana. But when we put the barrel $50, it's a conservative, but it's more real than 8% and $80 the barrel. Brazil less positions, and we are in the 4, 5, and 6 positions here if you compare with the Gulf of Mexico, Namibia, and Guyana. Our government take is so aggressive. If you look there, Brazil less competitiveness with these countries nowadays, and without the new selective tax. And the countries that I mentioned, Namibia, Gulf of Mexico is a region, Guyana, they are our strong competitors nowadays, and the scenario of government take is more competitive that we have nowadays. And our current government take composition in Brazil, looking a concession regime, you can see that we pay a lot of royalties and special participation. There's a strong number and percentages of the government take in Brazil. When we add all these percentages, we find a result of 70% in the revenue on the oil production. Is so important, and Brazil needs to think about it, especially when we are thinking in create a new tax on the oil and gas industry and mine also. This is so difficult for us to explain to our investors outside Brazil. Here we show the structure of the government take, or the rationale of the government take. The rationale is not tax the exploration and development phases. Technically, the development is not a phase, but we can here say that it's a phase. If you look the investments, we have a 6% of the whole investment in the oil industry in Brazil. Of course, we have some exceptions here. We have ICMS 3%, plus Rio de Janeiro fund. This is this increase of ICMS. We have, in fact, 3.6% of ICMS in Rio de Janeiro. And all the taxation on services that we have in Brazil, PIS/COFINS and other ICMS and other taxes here. And the rationale in Brazil is to tax aggressively when we have the effective production, as you can see here. When the first oil is produced we have in a total of around 70% taxation on oil and gas. And to understand the selective tax, we need to understand, and Gustavo mentioned that the royalties and special participation that all the producers pay in Brazil, they have an obligation. This obligation is linked to the compensate some environmental damage caused by extractive activities. Then we in Brazil already have a government take to protect the environmental. And some, you can see here, mitigating, adapting, or to climate changes. If we pay, why we have to pay the selective tax again? This cause, in fact, a double taxation. We have royalties and special participation to cover this eventual damage, and we have the selective tax for the same purpose. It's so difficult for us to understand this proposal that the Congress is voting today. When we see the structure of the selective tax, and Gustavo mentioned that, the complexity, and it's difficult to understand why extraction, the defect of extraction, cause some problems or harmful to health or environment. When you smoke a cigarette, of course we can see that, but when the act of extraction cause harmful to health or environment, it's difficult to understand. And the bill that is voting today put as taxable, in this case, mines and oil and gas, natural gas. It worse that we look to the tax immunities exemptions for extractions, because the general rule is that the selective tax cannot be charged when the good is exported. But for the extraction, there is an exception of these rules, saying that even you export mining or mines and oil and gas, natural gas, you have to pay the selective tax. And then it's incredible, but this is the bill proposition. And the last chart here is that Gustavo mentioned, that we have a threshold of 1% rate, but this is not the problem. If you have only 1% rate, or in not have a royalty or special participation, okay, but we have special participation and royalties in the same tax event, basically. Here is a long chart, but only to put the issues and the possibility of minimization if we accept this new taxation. In fact, this new tax is discourage the oil producers in Brazil because the sin tax is to avoid some social comportment to decrease the alcohol consumption or things like that. But oil, we need to reduce oil production. Of course not. And this is it's difficult to understand the selective tax inside the oil and gas industry is so difficult to understand. One thing, sorry. How can we accept to tax with new tax essential goods, products for our energy matrix as oil and natural gas? I cannot understand this. We put in the ordinary law that we will establish the rate 0 to 1, some reducers when, for example, some company in Brazil, oil producer, would have environmental projects, and then we could have some rate reduction here. This is a possibility to the future ordinary law that will establish the rate. And exportation of tax is a ridiculous tax goods for exportation. This is what makes sense. And as I mentioned, we have a real double taxation here with the oils and special participations. Here it's only a summary of that I said in the other slides. The government, for example, has two programs, national programs. One is the natural gas to open jobs, and they put that the natural gas is necessary, and now we are thinking to tax natural gas, the contradiction. And the other federal program is accelerated economic growth, when the government said that Brazilians increase our energy independence, generates coverage and jobs in Brazil, increases our energy independence, we need to have energy. And how can we tax more the oil and gas that compose this matrix? Is a contradiction too. Our Minister of Finance last May said in a discussion of the equatorial margin possibility of new discoveries that the exploration doesn't cause the environmental problems or consequences, and only when the product is used. The extraction is not. Nobody uses the product when is extracted. Then it's amazing. The government is very contradictory here when they talk about the oil and try to tax the same oil, saying that can damage the environmental or health. Here is a kind of summary of our messages to the government that to minimize the impacts of the selective tax. I mentioned, I think, all of them in my speech. Zero rate to essential goods. This is a good sense, no more than that. This is important for the industry, this chart, because we have with IBS, CBS, and selective tax, 10 years of transitions. Brazil cannot wait 10 years to have a new bid rounds. Because with the uncertainty of taxation, who could have interest to invest in Brazil? It's so difficult to have this perspective. And when we said in the final of my speech, when we said, I said that it's not only 1% of selective tax, because you can see here that all these issues that we have year by year in Brazil, we try to defend, to avoid the instabilities in the tax system, because this refuse the investment in Brazil. And then we have here the top of the issues here. The selective tax now. We have the revision of our income tax rules, elimination of interest on capital payments and dividends and tax the dividends. Changing in the calculation of methodologies of reference price is a tax basis of royalties and special participation, and transfer pricing that which objective also is to audit the oil transactions. And we have difficulty to understand the methodology of reference price and transfer pricing on the same product that is oil. It's so difficult for us to understand that. And in the end, other issues that we have here, environmental inspection fee, export tax that we had last year, is generate also a lot of instability in our sector. And this is that the conclusions that I mentioned during my speech, and I see that my time is over, and I would like to say thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Matias. Thank you very much. Your point about the next bid rounds and the required legal certainty to attract investment is so important. And also, yeah, you mentioned gas, and everybody following up to date with the discussions about the energy transition know how important gas is to equalize the supplies from solar and power. So yeah, it makes really no much sense to try and disincentive those products. Now, Rinaldo, please bringing the perspective of the IBRAM, the Mining Institute. Can you please share your views with us?
Thank you very much, Gustavo, for the invitation. I feel very honored to be here because I'm an engineer by training. I'm not law guy. I'm not taxation guy. So I'll try to show some slides, okay? Can you see my slides, Gustavo? Okay. So I bring some numbers from the mine sector. We are talking about one of the three key sectors here in Brazil. The numbers are very expressive. Mining in Brazil represents about 4% of the GDP. In terms of earnings, 248 billion reais a year. Exportations, we are very important for the balance of exportation importations. We collect a lot of taxation for the government, 85 billions of reais, 210 millions of jobs, direct jobs. just occupying a very small portion of the territory, less than 0.5%. We represent 32% of the positive net in terms of the commercial balance here in Brazil. What is important to understand is that mine is essential for the energetic transition. The new economies will be possible by minerals. Only minerals can offer new kind of energies. Can you see in these pictures an electric car? It's based on minerals. All minerals makes possible to run the electric cars. Likewise, the turbines, wind turbines, it's built up of minerals. Minerals are essential for the climate change in the future in terms of new energies. And Brazil is very good positioning in terms of possibilities. We have a lot of minerals here available according to the source of energy. On the left, you can see wind, you can see photovoltaics, you can see solar energies, hydropower, geothermics. So depends of the source of energy, depends of the type of energy, you need a lot of minerals. For example, air, you need 10 different minerals. We call strategic minerals, we call critical minerals, depend of the situation. So Brazil has a lot of possibility of supply the global demand for critical minerals. We have a lot of potentials here. This is critical for us. In terms of investments, this is a curve of the investments. Each bar represents 4 or 5 years. Nowadays, about 65 billions of dollars for the next year. So what's the problem we have here with the taxation? We call sin tax, we call excise tax, depends on the view. We call selective tax in Brazil. The arguments we have are very similar from the oil and gas sector. They have the arguments. It's impossible to understand how Congress representatives could include a selective taxation for the mining sector. Why? Because we are absolutely essential for the life. We are absolutely essential for the balance in terms of exportation, importation. So very critical for us. I know that the time is running, but I will focus in key points. They decide to charge only iron ore. We have a lot of minerals here in Brazil. The taxation approved in constitutional amendment consider all the minerals as a possibility to include taxation. But when it goes to the next phase, the another phase we are now in the Congress, they decide to choose only iron ore. Why? Because we are the second largest producer in the world. The numbers of iron ore here in Brazil represents about 70% of the exportation. Very critical point. In terms of the balance, in terms of payments balance, 65% of the positive result of the exportation is represented by iron ore. We have a very critical situation. We are comparing here in this slide the key competitors in terms of iron ore. Australia, South Africa, Chile, China, and Peru, everybody produces iron ore. You can see this is the total burn taxation regime you have. Brazil is the number one comparing to the other competitors in terms of taxation. We are leading, of course, in a negative sense, the taxation regimes. This is terrible because selective tax will increase a lot the cost of mining here in Brazil. As petroleum and gas, we are absolutely regulated by state activity. We report to the National Mining Agency, there's a concession regimes, we pay compensations, royalties, we call in Portuguese CFM. This is red pay, depends of the mineral we have. So again, minerals are essential for energy transition. There is no one kind of decarbonization without minerals. So there's a strong contradiction when governments, when the bill argues that extractive industry will represent environmental impacts totally the opposite. The solution for decarbonization will be provided by minerals. Impacts of selective tax. Many following industries depends of iron ore. Automotive sector depends a lot. Steel sector, packaging for food, energy sector, health and safety, constructions. We are talking about 10% of the Brazilian GDP depends directly of iron ore. The result of this in our country will be inflation. Inflation will be result from this. Gustavo, I will be short here, my friend.
So that's great, Rinaldo. Thank you very much. Thank you for your
The
contribution.
time is running a lot.
Yeah, you're right. No, but I think
uh,
we are on time, actually. Fortunately, we're very on time. Thank you both for being concise on your presentations and keeping us in British punctuality in our schedule. And just to point out, Rinaldo, thank you for conveying how the importance of the mining sector, not only to Brazil as a country into the energy transition, but also its exports for the fiscal balance of Brazil. And very interesting you pointing out that despite the constitutional amendment allowed or set forth all minerals within the scope of the selective tax, the bill proposed by the government chose only to tax iron ore, as if other
you know
mines.
why? Just to collect money. The only
Yeah.
idea behind this is to put money in the fiscal risks that Brazil is now. No?
Yeah. It's sort of. I see your point that it can be perceived as betraying an intent of just tax revenue rather than achieving the regulatory aims it was supposed to fulfill. So now let's have our Q&A now. We have already, I have one question, but we already have a question typed in our chat box. Please, the other members of the audience, feel free to submit your questions as well. This one from Luis Felipe Carvalho, partner with Julio Acanto, where I worked many years ago, a colleague at that time. What a privilege to have you join us today. And in his question, he points out that the environmental impact of mining, that's the grounds for the CEFEM being paid for so many years. And his question, and I pose this question to you, Rinaldo, is if there's any attempt being carried out by the mining sector that's being impacted according to the bill, especially iron ore sector, according to the governmental bill being voted, to deduct the CEFEM, the compensation paid from the selective tax base, to say the least, as a minimum measure to try to achieve fairness in this discussion.
Will be a dream for us, Gustavo. Minimum point, you know. Listen, CEFEM is just one kind of taxation we have. The idea of CEFEM is to reimburse the government, reimburse the Brazil for a non-renewable resource. Okay, we are extracting, we are receiving a public concession. So this is the idea, and also to prepare the municipality for the end of mining. This is the idea of CEFEM. In Portuguese, is a public price you pay for this. No, listen. Some states are creating another environmental taxation, TRFM here in Brazil. The idea is the same, environmental protection. So states, they obtained very recently in the Supreme Court an okay, the taxation is legal. So why? Because mining has a very impressive numbers. Of course, we produce environmental impact. Just to answer directly the question, we are lobbying for exactly this, to deduct the selective tax on CFN. It's not so easy, but we think that it's possible in the further regulations to lobbying about this, because otherwise will be a double taxation. very easy to explain in terms of taxation, no duplicity of taxation. It's a good argument for this.
Thank you, Rinaldo. Before moving to the next question, also point out Luis Felipe Carvalho's comment that the selective tax should be considered the joker for collecting purposes. I totally see your point. And as a matter of fact, sumptuary excises have an historical issue of increasing smuggling and illegal operations, and that mainly that can harm the alcohol and the tobacco sectors. Brazil already suffers a big tax revenue loss from cigarettes coming from Paraguay, you name it, China, who knows, and to increase taxation of those products, it's sort of defeats the purpose of imposing tax revenue on them, because at the end of the day, it's going to foster contraband, smuggling, and so on and so forth. Moving to the next question from Jonas Scorza Floriani from Fundamento Investimentos. What is the expectation for the voting? Would it be watered down or postponed? What are the next steps? Perhaps let's start with Matias. What is your expectation for the voting of the bill?
Yeah, the voting is, we are having the voting today. Today, certainly they will vote the bill. And the expectations for oil side is not good.
Rinaldo.
Listen, we used to say here in Brasilia, the parliament, the Congress has a regiment, and we have the Lira regiment. Lira is the president. We call Rio Regimento of Lira, no? Listen, the last version we obtained today define a percentage for iron ore of 0.25%. Is on the text, okay? I am not sure if it's definitive. We are still advocating to zero taxation because it's a principle for us. It's impossible to consider that selective tax on minerals that will support the energy transition. Listen, I have the same opinion of Matias. The scenario is not good for us. It doesn't matter if it's 0.25 or nothing, but the scenario is not good. Why? Because we are sinners. Parliamentarians consider us as a sinners, no? It's a sin to extract minerals. It's a sin. We are no renewable industry. So the reputation at the end of the day is not good for us, especially for mining after two big accidents involving mining tailings dams. So people are voting, in our case, in the accident of Brumadinho. It's very amazing to understand how it could be this, but this is the problem. So this is the first step. After lower case, we move to the Senate. There are some time they are in a break now, in the middle year break. So the discussion will continue on the Senate. We have another opportunity in the Senate. Very few chances of modify the things, okay? But we are still fighting.
But
No, very great.
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
go ahead,
So,
Matias, please.
only a remark and looking at the next question. Of course, we are fighting here today. We have basically two kinds of amendments. One is to put the selective extraction tax event in the general rule of no taxation in exportations. This is one that, and the other amendment is to put for the ordinary law kind of signal to reduce the rates when you have some conditions.
The
Excellent,
same
excellent.
strategy. We are sharing the strategy, Matias. Exactly the same. Listen, we have to understand that the imposto seletivo will be charged only in more 3-4 years. No, so we have some other opportunities in the future with the regulation. Not easy game, but we have some opportunities. At the end of the day, if nothing we obtain, we will go to the Supreme Court, alleging inconstitutionalities, no?
Right. Yeah. Well, 2027 is just next door, and so
Yes,
and again
exactly.
for industries that require such an intensive capital investment as mining and oil and gas, and they require stability, certainty, clear rules, clear burden, clear governmental take. That's crucial to
Yeah,
for definition of
long-term
investment.
investments for both sectors.
Exactly.
Long-term.
Exactly. Next question from Paula Lima, Constellation. Also, what a privilege to have Paula with us. Paula, a fantastic professional that we worked together back in Arthur Anderson. I will not say how many years ago. But so her question is, I believe you sort of addressed this.
Yes.
What actions EBP and IBRAM intend to adopt to combat, and if approved as the bill is, if you intend to file a lawsuit to question constitutionality.
Yes, I think so. We have the same idea. If nothing's worked, goes to the Supreme Court with we call ação direta de inconstitucionalidade. No?
Yeah, I'm thinking that with the current Supreme Court composition, I would like to wait a little more to file a lawsuit there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. As from my presentation, you have seen. I believe there are some grounds. Perhaps the offense to the federative structure by the resulting reduction of taxes that are shared with municipalities and states. The issue of tax justice, the issue of that the supplementary law should mitigate the regressive effect of this tax. And yes, I agree with you that there could be grounds for that. Any more questions? Someone would like to submit in writing? Okay. Well, I think it has been a very fruitful discussion. Again, very timely because the voting is taking place and will take place, as you pointed out, will take place in the Senate afterwards, and then after the Senate, it goes back to the lower house. So there is time, there is room for this bill or amendments being made to this bill. Actually, there is another bill, PLP 29, that has. It's a result of a far more close discussions between the sector and the Congress. So perhaps PLP 29 can be a source for adjustments into PLP 86. And just before ending, addressing the point made by Rinaldo that in the syntax seems to perceive oil and gas and mining industries as sins. Well, many people nowadays may have this view of carbon emissions and environmental impact as capital sins. Well, a syntax should aim at nudging a teenager via increased cost towards choosing some fruit to eat instead of trans fat, high fructose corn syrup cookie made industrialized. That should be the purpose of a syntax. That's what the society listened to when the syntax expression was used, and that's not what the bill submitted by the government and being voted by Congress really represents. So let's hope for adjustments and improvements to this text coming from congressmen in observance of those constitutional principles that also were included in the Constitution by the same constitutional amendment that created selective tax, trying to balance out these values. So again, thank you all that attended today. Thank you, Rinaldo and Matias, for sharing your views with us, for sharing your time and your knowledge with us. Thanks again, Vera, for the kind introduction. Thanks, Lena Beraldo and all the team behind the scenes in the Brazilian Chamber that make these events happen. Without you, it would not be possible, would not be here today. And let's please keep an eye on the events of the chamber through our LinkedIn page or the website. We look forward, as we have been doing for the last years, we look forward to stage additional webinars or seminars on tax matters that could interest the British Brazilian business community. And well, farewell. Hope to see you all in the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.